Joining us today on this episode of WtFun Podcast, we've got an awesome creative director, stage director, writer, scenic designer, and everything in between. This guy dabbles in everything. And speaking of dabbling, the ladies talk about what dabbling means to them. All this on WtFun Podcast. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to another episode of WtFun. Here we are, season 3 still, with episode number 27. Wow, 27. I'm still amazed every time we, note which episode we're on.
Can't believe we made it this far.
Yes.
Almost 2 years of us doing this podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And let this all be a reminder to all. This, again, was just, cubicle fun, cheese meh in Renee's cube. And then 2 years later, 3 seasons, 27 episodes with additional bonus cube chats, not, to add to the list, but we're so good. Oh my gosh. So with like 27 episodes underneath our belt, there's still more for our production company to dabble on besides podcasting. We talked about dabbling in film, production shows. We've talked about dabbling in some, producing other things. We have dabbled with our friends.
Get in podcast.
Yep, Get in with Paul and Laura. But I definitely want us to dabble in some film projects. Oh my gosh, I keep saying dabbling. What? I like to dabble into things. What does dabbling mean to you guys?
What?
Ooh, what a fun time in the cubicle this morning.
Because let me tell you something. To me, dabbling is dabbling like touch it. Like it's like taking like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I'm gonna go and or like going to Costco. I'm gonna go dabble and try on little different samples here. I'm going to sample this. I'm going to sample that. And in my experience of dabbling, I would say that I've dabbled a lot in the entertainment biz, from acting. I dabbled in acting. I dabbled in directing. I dabbled in writing a show. I dabbled in producing shows. I dabbled in improv and sketch comedy. So it's like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I know you ladies are in the entertainment industry as well. So what other things have you dabbled on or dabbled in?
Well, so when I started in theater, I was I was in high school. I really liked doing makeup. I really wanted to do makeup artistry things. But I just like to be creative. I really like crafting that. I have a whole craft supply zone. So it's just anytime I can do those kinds of creative things, I think that's interesting. But then when I started off doing wanting to do makeup, ended up doing tech, started in lighting. And then just kind of worked my way through all of the different areas in tech theater that you can land in. And then, somebody had said to me, I think, you're good, you're really good. And so maybe you should try stage management. And so I did. And I really liked it. It was great. I felt like it was something where you could really have your hands in all the pots. You have to kind of know a little bit about every discipline to be a really good stage manager. And so the fact that I took time to learn about all the other disciplines was helpful for me. So,
and then where has that led you to? Because now you've changed careers. So how did that help?
Yeah, I feel for me, the whole changing careers, having all of that experience of managing different shows, different events, of different calibers, right? So like maybe it's like a small party, or maybe it's like a really large media press event with, like celebrities and, crazy people. And it's just like all of that really has helped me manage all my work now, like as a project manager. So like, of course, like the skill set is different, right? Like I manage a team of like engineers, like that do like coding and things like that. So like that is different, but the fundamentals are still the same. And I had that same mindset changing careers where it was just like, I need to learn how to code so I know what I'm talking about. I need to learn how to do this so I know how to talk to this person. It was all the same. The steps were the same. It's just learning different skills. So yeah, I mean, the fundamentals are still there. I mean, managing a project is managing a project. No matter what you're doing, you still need to like know what you're talking about and be somewhat organized, and you'll be fine.
Absolutely. Now, Renee, I know
neat skill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know Renee has dabbled in sewing and costuming and all that fun stuff besides stage management.
Yeah, I've always called myself like the jack of all trades, master of none. Because I felt that I like doing more than one thing, and then I wouldn't master it. I'm just like,
and I think that should be the motto of a dabbler right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like you're gonna master the darn thing or like become great about it, I mean, you can until you find the thing, but that makes it all work. But yeah, I don't know. And I got in theater. I just wanted to try everything, and so I did. But what I found, I gravitated towards were like costuming design, because my grandmother was a seamstress, and that's what I grew up around, and I liked fashion. And then the other aspect was stage management because of the organizational skills, and then that kind of led into like the leadership portion, which I felt that I blossomed into, kind of thing. And then and acting has always been a huge part of it as well, and understanding, again, like you said, understanding all the different disciplines is what helps you be better at your job. Even if you are a performer, like if you're an actor and you understand the tech side and the management side, then you're more pleasant to be around. One. Mm-hmm. But you also understand the process. You're not there just, waiting for someone to point you in the right direction. Like, you know what you need to bring, and you understand why it's going to take X amount of time to rehearse this particular scene, because you've got automation and you've got all these other elements that are going into it. So it's important to try more than one thing. And then outside of that, I think we all like to dabble in different things. And maybe that's how we got to this. We were able to put all our efforts together to put the podcast, because we have different tastes and abilities and different things that we could apply here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think dabbling is very important. Again,
it's super important. Especially it's important, I mean, no matter what industry you're in, because like if you have blinders on, right, then you're not going to really be exposed to everything out there. And how are you supposed to know, like, like when like you choose to go to college, if that's, what you choose to do, you're like 18 years old, and like you're supposed to like decide, this is what I'm going to do forever. Like at 18, like that's insane. So it's just like,
that is so insane.
You have to like be able to like, and that's what college is really for. That's what I really liked about it, is like, you have to like go and try new things, like go meet people, go, join a club, go do whatever. And like, you don't have to like do everything professionally. I think that that's like what's so important, is like, you don't have to be the best at it, but if you like understand it, you have respect for it, then like that's good enough. You don't have to be like the best at literally everything. That's, that's too much.
Yeah. I think you have like people that are, I've always wanted to be this person, and I'm not, born with a specific talent that people are fully aware of, like your family is aware of, your teachers are aware of, and they're going to foster and hone that talent. And so then, you do that thing, right? Whether if it's being an opera singer or being a doctor, an engineer, or like that's like your brain, like that's what it does. I've always thought, oh my God, my life would be so much simpler if I just knew. If I just knew.
Yeah. But I feel like that's like part of why, like when I decided to go to school, like I was like, I don't want to go to a conservatory. I like was like really important that I went to a 4-year university, because I was like, if I'm just in conservatory doing theater for 4 years or 3 years or whatever it is, I'm like, I think I'm just gonna get burnt out. Like I already did so, like even at Chapman, like at a 4-year university where it's not a conservatory, I was in the freaking theater for 15 hours every single day. Like, yeah. And then like, and I still had other things. Like I still had my sorority. I still had all these other things that I was in. And like, if I was like, just like at like a Juilliard or at like an NYU, I would just be exhausted. I would be so tired. Like there's nothing else besides theater. And like, sometimes you need to do other things.
Right. Ladies, with our powers combined, I mean, we are quite the triple threat. We don't need any production crew whatsoever. We could do it ourselves, from creative to creating our costumes and all that fun stuff. I mean, come on now. We could do this.
We can do it.
Speaking of dabbling, our next guest is quite the dabbler.
Oh, yeah, he sure is. And it's taken him to very unexpected places in his career. So this is a good one. Yeah. There's a lot of great opportunities that he's had and that he's kind of made for himself. Is good tidbits for anyone who's listening about how to maneuver your way through your career and all the unexpected places it can take you.
Oh, yeah. Joining us today is a creative director, stage director, writer, scenic designer, and sometimes actor. He has directed numerous shows throughout Orange County and LA. Some of his favorite productions include Of Mice and Men, Proof, Big River, The Diary of Anne Frank, and also Orange County premieres of God of Carnage and A Behanding in Spokane. Wow, this guy's got a lot underneath his belt. He's also an artistic director for Costa Mesa Playhouse and is also an elected board member of the Orange County Theater Guild. He has won several awards and was honored as Man of the Year in Theater for 2016 by the LA Times. Say what? And our guest also holds a degree from the University of Las Vegas, which I think Kesia is from. Of course she is. And also at Cal State Fullerton. Beyond being a theater geek, this person is also a huge Star Wars and Marvel geek. Oh my goodness. Without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Michael Serna.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an honor to have you, the dabbler. And I say dabblers because this man here has got his hands on so many things entertainment-wise, from stage, film. I mean, like, this guy does it all. He dabbles from directing to acting to casting to producing, I'm sure. So, I guess he called himself a Renaissance man.
It sounds cooler than dabbler, I'm going to be honest.
But I like the dabbler.
Dabbler sounds like I'm getting into trouble a lot, which is probably true as well. Or that I'm only half accomplishing what I'm looking to do. So maybe that is true. I'm not entirely sure. But I'll take it. I've been called much, much worse.
No, I want to go back in time in our little time machine here of when little Michael Serna first, got his taste in theater. Like, what prompted you to want to be a performer? Because you started off as an actor, I'm going to assume.
I did, yeah. I mean, so many of us start that way, right?
Right.
Like, I'll just be on the stage. I was in high school and I was a pretty shy kid, and I thought I was going to be an artist, like a graphic artist or some kind of media artist. And that's what I was kind of gearing to do. And my sister was 3 years older than me, I think she thought I was going to be a real weirdo and too sheltered. So she kind of was like, you should really take a theater class. You'll like it. It'll be fun. And I was like, that sounds like fun. So I took a theater class in high school, and I found that I liked it, that it was fun, that I started getting out of my shell a little bit. There were a lot of girls there. It was one of the jokes for a while. It was like, oh, there were so many girls and so few guys. It was such a great situation for me at that age. But then I sort of transitioned and changed. And I went to college, and I still thought I was going to be an artist. But I was still at the time dabbling, right, in acting, and I was enjoying acting. But I thought, well, that's not a career anybody does. Nobody goes into entertainment and does that nonsense. And then I got cast in a couple shows, and it was a professor who became a mentor of mine, who saw me like waiting outside the lobby, like going over lines or something. And he's like, "Why aren't you in class with everybody else?" Because I went to UNLV for undergrad, and everybody had to take the sort of same classes. You took the acting class and then the voice class, and I wasn't a major in theater, so I wasn't in the classes. And he's like, "Why aren't you in class with everybody else?" I said, "No, I'm not really a theater major." He's like, "Oh, you need to be." And then I literally got up that moment and declared to be a theater major, and never stopped since then. So in my whole life, I think I've always been helped by people who push me some direction. Like, you know what you're doing, go do that. So smarter people have always nudged me forward in a good way, I guess.
Yeah. Would you say, like, going back to when your mentor at UNLV suggested that you become a theater major, that like that was the moment where you're like, this is what I'm just gonna do entertainment from like here on out?
I think so. I mean, I'll give him a shout out. Davey Marlon Jones was the director who inspired me. Who's sadly passed since, but he was out of the arena stage in Washington, and he had spent his whole life in the theater and as an entertainer. And I hadn't really met anybody like that yet, that had a whole life of it. Because I was still fairly new in being interested in theater. So that inspiration, and I realized that, again, I didn't think too far ahead. I don't think I had one of those moments where like, this is it, I figured it out for my whole life. But I knew I loved doing it, and I knew it was important to me. And I thought, well, I'm just going to roll the dice on this and see where this goes. And I think I felt confident in that moment because I needed somebody to tell me it was okay. I think there was a little bit of apprehension because I enjoyed it. I thought I was pretty good at it, even though I'd only been doing it for a couple of years. I didn't know much about it, but I felt I was learning fast, and I understood, and I was into it. But I needed somebody, like an adult, to tell me it was okay to do it. And he was definitely an adult who told me it was okay to do it. And he cared. I mean, there's, mentorship has been a huge piece of my life because through my careers, I say careers because I'm a dabbler.
Hashtag dabbler.
There's so many people that have mentored me in small ways and big ways, and taken me along that journey. And I think it's so important in this world of entertainment to have those people that believe in you, that trust, or give you their faith and trust, and give you that nudge to sort of keep pushing, because it is hard. There's no roadmap per se for how to do what you do. Right. I mean, in any business that I've been involved in entertainment, there's never a very clear, like, here's the guidebook on how to do this. Yeah. Right. Because everybody's a different kind of director. Everybody's a different kind of actor. Everyone's a different kind of casting director. Whatever it is you're doing, there's a different take on everything. So trusting yourself is key, but then having somebody to help you and say, that's okay. Or that sucked, but it's okay that it sucked because you're going to survive.
Yeah. And we've joked that you're a dabbler, right? You like to do multiple different things, but what was the progression of doing, trying all these different things in entertainment, going from acting to casting all the way now to creative directing? What was that succession like for you?
Yeah, it's a bouncing ball really of different things. I loved acting. I thought this is the thing I'm going to do. I graduated from UNLV. I didn't know where I was going to go next. Some personal family things were going on at the time. My mom was dying, and she passed away right after I graduated from college. And then Cal State Fullerton basically pursued me to do their master's program as an actor. And I thought, oh, okay, I got nothing else to do. I'm no focus in my life. So I ended up in California. And, I was enjoying acting, but I was starting to sour a little bit on it. I graduated graduate school. I was getting gigs. I was working. I did a couple of equity shows, and it was just sad because the grind of being an actor is so hard. Mm-hmm. And, the day-to-day really having to hustle. And I think I was tired a little bit, just mm-hmm. emotionally and personally. And so, I'd gone through some stuff, and I just started to feel like, I don't know if I can do this my whole life. And I had some other actors I was working with at the time that were so good. I mean, one guy his older man was like in the original Broadway production of Jesus Christ Superstar. And now he's doing this silly show where he's playing a small part in Being Earnest with me. And I thought, is this the life I'm going to have? Where mm-hmm. like 30 years from now, I'm going to have peaked long ago. And now I'm just gigging as best I can to survive. Yeah. And that's a working life. And that's a great working life. And I respect all those actors who are able to pull that off. And I have so many great friends that are literally hustling every day and keeping it alive. And I respect that tenacity. And it goes back to that old adage of, if you can imagine yourself doing anything else, do it. And I basically got there. I thought, I don't think I can do this my whole life. I don't think I want to live out of a suitcase. It's not that exciting to me. For acting, it was never about the adoration or the sort of excitement of the audience. It was really more for me. Like, I loved being on stage telling a story and acting a role and getting out of my shell. And I loved that. I didn't need the applause. Like, I was fine when they're like, we're not going to take a curtain call. I'm like, great. I just wanted to do the thing. And I loved doing the show and bringing that character to life. So without the need of that live audience, I thought, well, I don't think this is going to be my life. And I had done some short films and worked in the film biz a little bit. And I didn't love that either, because that was the character development process wasn't the same. And it wasn't that sort of digging into a full story. It was really like, oh, here's your scene, go and do your thing, and then peace out. But I had done a lot of directing, and I really loved directing. And I thought, well, this is the thing I think I will always do, is be a director. So I thought, but I can't make money doing that. I didn't have the sort of, again, tenacity to go out and say, I'm going to just commit fully. And that's, when I started working at Disney at that time. So Disney really did give me so many opportunities to do different things. And that's where I was able to use the skills I had as an actor, as a director. That led me to, again, I'll go back to my Disney career a little bit on this one. I was hired on as an actor. I stayed around and did like a scheduling job. I was a character manager for a while and managed a team there. And I learned a lot of practical business skills. And then I thought, well, is there a world I can use the stuff I'm doing on the outside within that construct? So then that's when I became a casting director there. I'd obviously been casting shows for myself and for friends for years, and getting to create that role and get deeper into that world was sort of like career 2 for me, really. Going from actor, that was sort of the next stage of a life of, oh, this is pretty great to be able to give people an opportunity to pursue that career, especially if they're, want this to be their life, to get into the entertainment industry, to get into a show. But still, directing was always that thing that I was wanting to do. It was years later that I realized that creative directing is sort of, to me, the extension of that. Whereas focusing on the micro of a single show, looking at a broader project and looking at a bigger piece of a creative piece, whether it's developing a creative thing, writing, all of that, I think, stemmed out of wanting to tell good stories, wanting to be a part of a story, and then sort of expand that out. And I think having that overhead view that a creative director gets to have, or an artistic director, which is my role in Costa Mesa, is to sort of look at the broader picture and to help other creatives. That was something I got to much later in my life. I think I had done so many other things that made sense to me. It was now time, I think, for me to look at what's a bigger picture, what's a bigger investment, is helping others and getting us all together to create something big and creating a giant village, if you will, of creative people to work with you, instead of you just being the person who has to think of a lot of stuff as you do as a director, and focusing on, you got to stage the actors and, deal with a bunch of other things. Creative directing really allowed me to do all the crazy control freak stuff, which I love doing. because I'm not much of a control freak in regular day-to-day life, but when it comes to my creative work, I really am. I like to be in all pieces of it, which is why I think I'm an interesting creative director, because I also means I like to know about the budgets and how things cost, which is, I think, what I'm good at as an artistic director as well. Is it concerns me to know what money we have to spend, because it does cost to create anything. And I think it behooves a creative person to get concerned about that. If you're not concerned about that, you're going to dream huge dreams, which I believe we should always dream huge dreams, but all huge dreams have a dollar price to them.
Right.
And if you don't think about that dollar, I think you're going to end up dabbling and not succeeding, and not being able to find that sweet spot where you can spend the money you have and create something really amazing. So challenge your big dream, but find that place the dollar fits in.
There's like a definite level of practicality that you have to incorporate in what you do.
Yeah, and especially when you're doing it, for a company. I mean, it's funny how I think directors get stuck in this world of I'm the most important person in the process. But if you're a good director, you're going to work for a company, right? You're going to work at the Center Theater Group. You're going to work at Steppenwolf. You're going to work in other places. You're working for a company. Right. So you are at the behest of somebody else. So being able to work within a construct of a budget, of an expectation, is where you're going to succeed professionally as a director. And I learned that early on, that it's cool to have your way of looking at things, but again, the practicality of what is required, what's the audience need, and what does the producer need, can't get out of your view, I don't think.
Yeah. I definitely think like that can sometimes be a struggle. I think so, like just trying to balance like your own creativity with actual needs of like of the production. It's tough. Yeah, it's really tough. And I think like for us, like as stage managers, like we kind of have to be like, are you sure that you want to go down that route, because it might not work out the way you want it to, and I think it's tough. We're also, creative people too, and we want to make it like this amazing grand thing, but we also have to be like the voice of reason sometimes when there's a lot of like creative juices flowing. You're like,
yeah, I love how you mentioned you're creative too, because I believe that everybody on a project, whether it's theater or wherever you're doing entertainment, we are all creative, right? Because this isn't like an accounting job. There's an absolute right or wrong, right? We are all working on something that's organic, that's fluid, that's becoming something. We are all part of that process. So it's not like just being the stage manager. Well, you keep in your corner. I hate that thinking. I think it's important for us to have those perspectives and viewpoints.
Right. Exactly.
When you decide on a project and you say, this is what I want to bring to life, what is it that makes that happen? And then you're really good at convincing people. So how do you make that happen? Those are two good tools.
The second one has been crucial in my life. So you're right about that. I should probably write a book on that part of it. But the first thing, when it comes to something I want to put together, a play or whatever thing, even in my day job, if I have an idea of a concept, to me, I want to have a good sense of what that feeling is that we're going to get out of it, and then how we're going to tell that story. So it's a twofold. I want to have something moving and affecting or exciting, and then I want to be able to tell something kind of interesting and as much as we can in the environment. So, there are plays I've directed where I just wanted to do that play because that play is so good. So my next project is a Streetcar Named Desire, which I've mentioned just recently here. And I was supposed to direct it 2 years ago, well, a year and change ago. So we're finally putting this up in March. But that play is so hard to me, and I've never wanted to touch it until this time in my life, because I felt like you have such a vision. When you say that name of that play, you have a vision probably of Marlon Brando, you have a vision of a certain style of that thing, and it's very specific. Anybody who knows theater has an opinion. And that to me is the greatest challenge of that show, is how do I then bring a relevancy, bring something unique to this story, Thank you. How do we make this? How do we make this resonate today? And what changes? What things do I need to tweak in order to make it relevant? Right? Because it's also a dated play. There's a bunch of stuff in there that I'm destroying. Sorry, Tennessee Williams, but I'm going to change it up, and I'm using the format of theater to sort of be able to do that. Right? And we don't have to tell the same story all the time, which is great. So for me, it's finding that thing that becomes a passion, because you're going to spend a bunch of your life. And for me, I've spent 2 years of my life worrying about Streetcar Named Desire. So you're going to spend some time worrying about it. So you better love it. You better want to do it. Mm-hmm. And as a director, I don't direct anything I don't want to do anymore. I have for the years. For so long, I directed, project to project. People would say, "Could you direct this? My kid has a play. Can you direct this thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I fell out of love with that. I felt like it was harder to create in that environment and harder to feel passionate about it. And then there's often you want to say to the actors, "I know this is crap, so just get through it." I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to be able to have a quality script by a great writer or good writers to say, you're gonna love doing this. It's gonna be you're gonna spend hours of your life as a performer doing this. I want you to love it. So the second piece of that whole thinking is I want whatever cast in the show I'm doing to love doing it so much, to feel like they're showing up every day because, man, this is fun. And wow, this is important to do to an audience, right? Because a lot of us have been involved in productions where they were not nice to an audience and the show was not a good thing to watch. And you're like, wow, this sucks for you all to sit here for an hour or 4 or whatever we're pressuring you into. And I've been in those shows. I was an actor in those shows and been like, this is a crap show. I'm so sorry you showed up today. I'm doing my best. So that's where it comes from, like wanting to do a project. Let's make it fun and make it wonderful. And then the selling of it has evolved. I mean, it really, it's weird. I've tried to piece apart. I've talked to some people about pitching. I think for me, the number one thing is I was an actor, so I'm not afraid to talk to people and talk in front of a bunch of people, which helps me in my day job a lot because I have to talk to a lot of people and say a lot of things and improvise and answer questions.
And you know how to say it.
Yeah, and you're pretty good at it, Serna, because I've pulled you, numerous times impromptu, like, "Hey, can you stop by this rehearsal hall really quick and just talk to a couple of people here about this?" Sure, okay. And he's on it. He's on it. You're good. You're good.
The hustle is there. I'll figure it out. I mean, and I think.
I want to take it now to not a different direction. It's still about influences. And this is based on a conversation that we had at work where you said, there's not a lot of folks that have our last names, right?
Yep.
And I just want to talk about that, like how that has influenced you, because you are Michael Serna, right? And you are Latino. How does that influence what you do? And what has that path been because of that last name?
Yeah, it has, in the past, I would say 20 years of my life, it's become more and more important to me and continues to be a bigger piece of my life. And I think because I've identified myself more in my adult life, because I'll go back a little bit. So my father, born and raised in New Mexico, he was the first generation American, Northern USA American. And his parents were from Mexico. And, I think he grew up in a tough time where he fought against his identity a lot. And so I think he didn't want his son to be in that same struggle. So he did what he could to keep me out of that struggle. So I grew up very much detached from it, but it's part of you and it's part of you and you can't get away from that part of you unless you try to change yourself entirely and become something else. But you need to find that place of embracing it. And I figured that out later on in my adult life. I figured out, well, this is who I am and this does identify me. And this is now I create another block for myself because I'm also in a world where that isn't the dominant reality. There aren't a lot of Latinos doing what I do that don't traverse across. Right. I do have a sense of privilege in that I'm half Mexican, half Irish. So I fuse in a world where people can go, oh yeah, he's like a white guy, which is normal, like Caucasian. He's like, Irish. I get it, Irish. So it's very easy for people to kind of put you in that bubble and say that's who you are. So I have that privilege in that sense that I did a lot of shows that, they probably didn't realize they were casting a Latino guy, right? They're like, the last name, whatever that means, but here you are. You're in The Importance of Being an Earnest with a bunch of other, waspy people, which was great. I mean, it allowed me to have a career of that, but it also was hard because I would have other friends who didn't have that privilege that struggled to get work because, I'm very Puerto Rican and unless I'm going to play a street thug, they don't want to put me in something. And I saw that. And so for me, it became more influenced by those who didn't have that ability to kind of play both sides. And I wanted to sort of then look at how can I help as I continue to evolve in this world to be a voice, to be somebody to help lift up others, to elevate others, to change the narrative, to mix up. When I look at casting something, really the past 15 years of my life as a casting director and as a director has been, I don't care what the document says, who's what. Unless there's a part of the show that is clearly something, like we're telling, if there's a conscious casting decision to make because this is, a black role, this is this role, I don't care. Right. If it just says a man, a woman, whatever, or they, them, whatever it is, I want full freedom to think about beyond it. And I don't care if your norms are, well, it doesn't make sense that father is black and the mother is white and the kids are whatever. I don't care what your problem is. That doesn't matter because that's not part of my narrative. And I think we need to continue to look at this world as a bunch of people living together and struggling. We're all going through a struggle. And as creators, I want to continue to be able to have more people in the room with me that are different, for lack of a better term. That are different perspectives, different heritage and backgrounds, because it makes us so much better. Every time I've been able to bring in, and I'm fortunate now that I'm in a position where I can often bring in different people and genders, et cetera, to be a part of the conversation. It makes us so much better as a creative mindset, as a team of people, to have diverse thought. So we're not just always sort of like, oh yeah, we're all on the same page. I love a different opinion that says, but for me, this is what I feel. Or, oh, did you think about this? And that is what I think we as creators need. And as a Latino man, I just feel like I want there to be more of us everywhere that can see each other and go, yeah, we're all just trying to get through our day and strive and achieve greatness. And any chance I can get to elevate somebody else, another person of color, another woman, I want to have that opportunity to sort of shine a light on a diverse thinking that we haven't seen in the past. Honestly, white men have had an amazing run. So good on them. But the future is not that.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah.
Yes.
The future is not that. So we need to move on. And if we're not staying relevant if we think of that's the norm, right? That's going to make us great again. Wink, wink. It's not. Right. We're gonna need to pass beyond that. So it has become a passion, and it becomes a passion that's hard in my day job because there aren't any people I can look up to. There is no other man, the Latino man, that I can look at in my day-to-day work and say, how'd you get where you are? How'd you fight that fight and get to be that person? So often I look at it and go, oh, I think it's going to have to be me. So that's the responsibility that I go, okay, I'm going to have to swallow that and take those hits and realize, oh, this is going to be a bit of a piece of work. Because, and it's fine because I feel like I've so often thrown myself into not knowing what the hell I'm doing and to sort of blaze a path and trail and go like, well, let's figure it out. So I approach it that way. But I would love a world where, I go to a meeting and it's not always a bunch of white men. Right. I mean, when I can create meetings that they're not that's the minority. That's pretty great. It makes me happy because I know that meeting's going to be hot. That means they have some good thinking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. When there's like more women around the room and more people of color, and I'm like, this is going to be a good discussion. We're going to get some shit done.
Yeah.
Because
I love that.
They do. People get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. We do. So, yeah. And I mean, entertainment. I know theater is a reflection of life.
Yep.
And so is entertainment. Like, that's why we respond to it. It's because it has to be that reflection. If you don't see yourself in it, And it's
whitewashed as it has been for so many years, right? Like I think people miss the point of, I'm really big on color conscious casting, because people miss the point that, for years I didn't see myself in shows because there weren't other actors doing, I remember loving as a kid Raul Julia as an actor. And it wasn't until years later I realized why I loved Raul Julia as an actor, because he was a Latino man. He reminded me of my father a lot. And I saw a reflection of my world when I saw him, right? When I saw him in Addams Family, I'm like, oh, I know who this guy is. I saw it, right? And he was a very amazing actor, but also very subtle. Like, it wasn't like he was just cast because he was a Latino man, right? He didn't have to play a thug or, a criminal or whatever the case may be, right? He could play cool, amazing characters. And it was great. It was where they would like this world to be.
You have an awesome day job, and it's a day job I'm sure lots of directors would want to jump on. But, what was that hustle like to land? And is it okay for me to say that you are the creative director of Walt Disney Imagineering for, entertainment and stuff? Like, is that?
Yeah. That's my job. I mean, I'm not going to deny my job, which is I'm a creative director at Walt Disney Imagineering Live Entertainment. That is my official title. It's weird because I'll talk about this a bit. It wasn't a job I knew I wanted to do. It wasn't really a job that existed when I started at Imagineering. They didn't really have that role, and I did kind of hustle to create. There was a void for it, though. There was a need for it. So similar to my earlier conversations about having to kind of blaze a trail or create something, I sort of filled a gap that people didn't realize was a gap. And in doing that, I did a lot of hustling. I took a lot of projects. I jumped into any project I could. Again, doors open, I jump in. And in doing that, I think I made myself important and relevant and necessary. And in doing that, I think I created a job that hopefully survives past me doing this job. But I think my experience from everything I had done, from being an actor to a casting director to being a director, all of those pieces have made me a better, more effective creative director for live entertainment, because I understand that broader picture. Even, managing, a park and performers in a park, the ability to go into a situation, it's such a weird job we do as a day job. You ladies know this, that there's nothing that definitely directs to something else in the real world, right? Like creative director in a real job is a very different kind of thing than it is for Disney. And so how do you then sort of decide I'm going to become that, or how do you prepare yourself for that? And I think all we can do is get as much knowledge as we can and broad knowledge as we can as creative people, and then keep finding ways to sort of work your way into the system. But for me, it was that understanding of creative work, of casting and being a director, but also how to collaborate with other people was crucial. And that, from my director's mind of how do you collaborate with costume designers and set designers and stage management and producers, and all of those pieces is really key. If you've done a professional job as a director, you're much better prepared to be a creative director, because you've had to work for the money, you've had to work for the talent, you've had to work for the creative people you collaborate with. And those three pieces are crucial to what I do every day, because I have to adhere to my sponsors, which is, really our guests, but also, the leadership teams I work for. And then I also need to create things that are going to be beneficial and make the performers happy and make them want to do this job, like I said, and be a part of that. And in between those two big key elements, I need a village of creative people, collaborators, and thinkers, and sometimes scientists and such. I mean, when I work in Imagineering, I'm working with architects and scientists and crazy thinkers. So the ability to kind of receive that and not push back against that. So to know you're in a room with, quantum physics, geniuses, and know that they're going to be so much smarter about a ton of other things that you are not smart about. But you know what? I can tell you all of August Wilson's plays in order of succession of a cycle of centennial plays. So I have my own skills too, sir. But yeah, I think that ability to kind of embrace what I know versus what you know, and then let our two worlds combine. And somehow the Pulitzer Prize winning Fences is just as important as the fence you're about to build. But like how I did that, I can put that together.
That was really good.
On the fly. Again, I can sell something. I can shovel and sell it. So that's the added, the cream on top is the ability to sell and influence and talk to people and get them to invest in whatever it is you're doing.
I love it. So as we wrap up our interview,
which has been great. So thank you.
Yeah, it was really good. Thank you. Do you have any last bits of words of wisdom for our listeners?
Yeah, I think for me, the one thing that that has served me well is when a door opens, I basically have always jumped through that door. And even if I wasn't sure where I was going to land on the outside of that door, I think, it sounds like a trope to say, well, doors open and, walk through. I think don't be afraid to walk through those doors, or like I said, jump through those doors, because even if it doesn't end up where you want it to end up, it gives you a different experience, a different sort of something to take from life. And that goes across the board. From my work life, my day job to, being a director and directing things I didn't think, well, I don't know if I want to direct this, to acting in things, to just helping people, seeing a show that I didn't know anything about. Don't be afraid of the unknown. And I think it's easy to be afraid, but in the world of entertainment, we are supposed to take those risks and supposed to be the ones who challenge the norm. And if you don't take advantage of that moment, you're missing out on something that could really change your life. So that's the big one, is that just jumping through a door when that door opens. And the other thing is, I think we as entertainment need to continue to embrace kindness.
Absolutely.
It's such a huge part of what we can do to the world. And it gets more important, I think, as we go on. Coming out of COVID and everything like that, I want to just continue to think about a culture of kindness to each other. It's a competitive world. It's such a fighty, competitive world for every reason. And so often I see other creatives kick other creative people down. And sure, we should have opinions. We should absolutely be like, that I think is garbage for me. But I don't need to tell that person it's garbage. Right? Because they're putting their heart and soul into it. And I don't think it doesn't benefit anybody to be that critical person when you're a colleague or a co-collaborator or a fellow enjoyer of entertainment. So I've really tried to turn, and then again, I think I was a fighter and I would be like, that sucks. I hate that. Oh, I'm better than that. That you get that sort of edge at some point in your life. But I'm past that. I want to celebrate and elevate and feel good about my work and others and not be a hater all the time.
Well said. Well said. Hashtag kindness.
Yeah. Could all use more of that. I'm afraid it's going to become like the dribbler instead. And he just was drooling on himself the whole interview.
Well, thank you, Serna. Always an inspiration. Conversation with you somehow. It always ends up being something like this. So I thank you for that.
I think
that you've always made me think twice about things and pushed me in different ways. So I thank you again. And thank you for joining us, being here with us.
That's very kind. I was honored to be asked, and thank you for having me.
If you'd like to follow Michael Serna, you can follow him on LinkedIn at Michael Serna. Again, Michael Serna on LinkedIn.
Yes, and please be sure to subscribe to all of our podcast platforms so you can stay up to date on all of our latest shenanigans. And hey, while you're at it, go ahead and write us a quick little review letting us know what you think about the podcast. We love hearing from you. We post new episodes of WtFun Podcast every other Friday. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.